Joan, I don't know if you saw the massive protest out in Portland.
Oh.
Did you see this?
Couple of people?
This was... Bunch of old people out there. Did you hear about this?
Nope.
I don't think there's anyone in this video under the age of like 65. No offense if you're like 65.
So
Says the guy who's rapidly approaching 65.
Right.
But they're singing Woody Guthrie.
Woody Guthrie songs. Yeah.
That's what they're doing.
You're back-to-back presidential terms away from being 65, just so we're clear.
Shut up, Sam. You know what, Sam? I hope someday... Can I just say that I hope someday you work with a producer who is constantly reminding you of how old you are. I hope that when you're my age and you're in my chair, you've got somebody saying, well, you know, you're 2 presidential terms away from being dead.
I didn't say that.
That's exactly how I heard it. And
I heard AARP.
AARP is way too liberal for me, youngster. I'm going to do the other one, whatever the other one is. Because I think isn't there...
AMAC.
AMAC.
It's AMAC, yeah. So you know what I do when I get those things from what's the one?
AMAC?
No. AARP.
ARP?
Well, I take it, because they give you, or at least they used to anyway, they give you an envelope that's already pre-stamped.
Oh, okay.
So I would write a note to them, a really friendly note about how they helped, Obama with Obamacare, and I'll never forget. And I
Do you really?
sign it. Sometimes I kiss it with
Strongly
lipstick
worded
on.
letter.
And I put it in that pre-stamped envelope, and I send it right back to them.
Oh, good. I like that.
It's just some poor girl opening Jones mail.
Just going, another crazy woman.
So, American Association of Retired People, is that what it is?
Yes.
Okay, so do you know what I call the AARP?
What do you call the AARP?
CARP. Crappy American Association of Retired People. CARP.
Dan, that is an amazing...
You can put that on a hashtag if you want, friends.
You could, yes. Wow.
Let me guess, they're advertisers. Don't care. All right, moving right along. 7-Eleven, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. All right, so it turns out, let me get the correct audio up. So it turns out that deranged Jack Smith, can I just say, I wasn't real surprised by this. Spoke to Matthew Hurd about this just a few moments ago. He didn't seem surprised by it as well. Donald Trump didn't sound surprised by the fact that deranged Jack Smith, the former special counsel, Jack Smith, surveilled our own senators, Bill Hagerty and Marsha Blackburn, a document reviewed by Fox News Digital revealing that Smith and his Arctic Frost team investigating January 6th were reportedly tracking the phone calls of GOP Senators Lindsey Graham, Marsha Blackburn, Ron Johnson, Josh Hawley, Cynthia Loomis, Bill Hagerty, Dan Sullivan of Alaska, Tommy Tuberville of Alaska, GOP Representative Mike Kelly of Pennsylvania, all Republicans, all conservatives. And so Trump, this was what Donald Trump said about this last night when he found out.
Jack Smith, we just found out that he had some of your key allies under surveillance, wiretapping, finding their phone records, everybody from Tommy Tuberville, Lindsey Graham, Bill Hagerty, senator from Tennessee.
Yeah.
Did you hear about this? I did not know. Nobody had any idea.
A little while ago, I did. He was a sleazebag, Jack Smith. He was a bad guy, terrible guy, always went too far. He was a violent, horrible prosecutor, and he's paying the price. I tell you what, people. What he did to the lives of so many people, and he tried on me. This guy was a bad guy, and the reason he lost is because he went too far. When you go too far, sometimes you get away with it, but they didn't get away with it here. Jack Smith was a sick person.
So that is Donald Trump, leaving nothing to the imagination about how he feels about Jack Smith, an FBI official telling Fox News Digital that Smith and his team had been tracking the senators, and they were able to see, here's how deep it went, which phone numbers they called, the location the phone call originated, and the location where it was received. Now, remember what I said. I hate to be this guy, but way back when I said, when January 6th happened, I said the Democrats are going to use this for years to come. And they did. And so here is yet another instance where they said, oh, yeah, you know what, January 6th, we've got to start monitoring all of these nasty insurrectionist Republicans. And they used January 6th as an excuse. A source said the calls were likely in reference to the vote to certify the 2020 election. An official said the records were collected in 2023 by Smith and his team after subpoenaing major telephone providers. So remember, this was the special counsel under Joe Biden, the special counsel investigation into Donald Trump supposedly trying to influence the election of 2020 and January 6th and all of that. Politically motivated, in my opinion, all of this was taxpayers paid, what was it, $50 million on Jack Smith's investigation. And Smith himself dismissed the case after Donald Trump won the election. His report, though, still maintains, Jack Smith's report, still maintains that Donald Trump was guilty. So all of these folks, again, are Republicans. Shocking, they say, that Jack Smith would do this. Again, not to belabor the point, I'm not shocked in the least. Bill Hagerty was speaking yesterday. You just heard he was one of those mentioned. Marsha Blackburn as well. Hagerty was one of the first to speak.
Senator Hagerty.
Thank you, Senator Johnson. And Chairman Grassley, thank you for your leadership in making this happen. This is an extraordinary revelation that just took place this afternoon. My colleagues and I found out, all of us Republicans, by the way, that we were placed under investigation by this FBI, under the Joe Biden FBI that was led, I presume, by Jack Smith and his predecessors. This isn't the first time that it's happened, though. Senator Johnson just mentioned this. I served on the Trump transition team in Trump Tower in 2016. Senator Blackburn was vice chair of the transition committee then, as were probably a dozen or more members of Congress. To think that we were surveilled by the Obama FBI. This corruption runs deep, and it's gone on for far too long.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. Mentioned this in the previous hour, where you had the Democrats and they were spying on journalists. They were spying on the Associated Press. Remember also, and I'll mention this again here in a little bit with a little bit more detail, but as Senator Hagerty says, this has been going on far too long. Remember that they also went after conservative organizations, including Turning Point and Charlie Kirk. So this, I don't know, kind of seems like a Democrat thing, doesn't it? Spying on conservatives.
And the fact that it's happened here again, the fact that they are looking at our records in 2023, sitting members of the United States Senate. Again, the only thing that we have in common, the only thing in common in this entire list is that we're all Republicans. Yeah. They've decided to come after us. This is as partisan as it gets.
Yep.
The FBI and the corruption that's running there has to be cleared out. Thank God we have Kash Patel and Dan Bongino there. This has to be addressed. It has to be resolved. It needs to happen today.
Do you remember when Kash Patel was up for confirmation? And they hated Kash Patel. I mean, it was just, you could feel the hatred and the anger at Kash Patel. Well, this is why. Mm-hmm. Because Kash Patel has been out there saying for a long time, when he was, previous to being head of the FBI, he was saying there's a lot of corruption within the FBI. And he talked about wanting to root out that corruption. And so Kash Patel, obviously spot on. And I think that they need to do what they need to do to figure out what exactly was Jack Smith and the Democrats up to. What did Marsha Blackburn have to say? What she had is coming up next. And by the way, you can always watch us on YouTube. You can watch us on Facebook. You can watch us on X. You can watch us at 997WTN.com. You can listen to us anywhere, including good old 99.7 on your FM dial. So Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, they are going to continue to look into what Jack Smith was doing. Now, I've mentioned it before. I'm going to mention it again, that it appears so far, it appears that they went through the grand jury to get these subpoenas to start monitoring the phone calls and looking at the telephonic information of all of these Republican senators But just because they went through that process doesn't make it right. And I would also be interested to know, where did they get that grand jury pool from? Because remember, if they got it, and I have no idea, but if, for example, it was in Washington, D.C., we know that the jury pool in Washington, D.C. is extremely leftist. Here's more from Marsha Blackburn. This is what she had to say yesterday.
What we know is this, that the FBI under Joe Biden and under Barack Obama, that they exercised activity that they had no authority to exercise. And as Senator Hagerty mentioned, we know what they did in 2016 to the Trump transition team. And now we find out that after the Mar-a-Lago raid, after the indictment of President Trump, they surveil us, people who support President Trump, members who are all Republicans. But it shows you how out of control and rotten to the core and politicized the FBI had become, and how they had absolutely no problem at all whatsoever with political weaponization. We appreciate the information we've gotten today. We look forward to further investigation on this.
Yeah, again, Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, they're not going to let this go, nor should they. And, of course, it's ironic that the left, of course, has been screaming about Trump going after his political enemies. I am so sick of the talking points of these people on the left. But they keep saying, oh, Donald Trump is going after his political enemies. Clearly, it was Joe Biden and Jack Smith and Merrick Garland and all these people on the left that were going after their political enemies. The weaponization of law enforcement agencies against conservatives, that is what's been going on. 92. Check me on this, Joan. 92 conservative organizations is what Jack Smith was investigating. I think it was 92. For activities related to the 2020 election is what they have been investigating. So, again, not to belabor the point, but it does seem to me that the election was used as a reason or as an excuse to go after these organizations, and it is the same thing with these senators.
You were right.
Was it 92?
92
right,
conservative and Republican organizations.
Now, I had Sam fact check me on this. So Jack Smith, and again, I'm going to once again say that it looks like he went through all the proper channels. That so far, he went through the grand jury process. Jack Smith did. Doesn't mean that it's right, and it doesn't mean that he may have done something illegal during this process. We'll have to wait and see what happens. Though I don't believe that Jack Smith was pardoned by the auto pen. Was Jack Smith pardoned?
He was not pardoned, and as a result of that, they could pick at if there's any hair out of place in his paperwork over what he did to, I would say, unlawfully investigate Republican organizations and politicians. Mm-hmm. We already got Newsweek with an article saying that people are calling for his arrest.
Absolutely. Now, the question is, okay, oh, you know what? We got Jonathan Fahey. What a perfect guy to talk about with this. Former director of ICE, highfalutin attorney himself. So I'm going to ask Jonathan Fahey coming up at 7:36 what he thinks about Jack Smith being arrested. By the way, this is Senator Ron Johnson. He helped put all of this together.
But this is outrageous, what has happened. This doesn't surprise me, but it should shock every of what the Biden administration has done. And by the way, this is the first time I was targeted by the FBI. Under the Obama administration, the same thing happened to both Senator Grassley and I. As part of the Foreign Influence Task Force, we were giving a briefing to try and convince us that the Hunter Biden laptop was no big deal. Right. Basically, trying to throw us off the track. So this is major corruption that's being revealed inside the Obama and Biden Department of Justice and the FBI. None of us were subject or targets of this investigation. There's no predicate. There's no reason for this other than a fishing expedition, which, again, should outrage and shock every American. Senator Hagerty.
Yep. So that's where Senator Haggerty comes up. But, and Sam brings up a great point. And I actually got into a back and forth with somebody last night. I don't even remember where it was. But somebody was talking about, the Democrats and the Republicans and all of these things. And Sam brought up the point off the air in my headphones. The Democrats have to spy on Republicans to try to get the upper hand. All we've got to do as conservatives is let the people on the left talk. And they say the most gosh-awful things. And so the more that I've got example after example after example. All we have to do is let them talk or text in the case of what is going on with the Virginia Attorney General's race with that Jay Jones, who spoke about in a text message, literally killing his political opponents. And the update this morning as well was kill some police officers as well. So that's all we need to do is focus with the Democrats, focus on their words, focus on their texts, and focus on their tweets to know just how vile these people are. All right, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Want to get right to the Newsmaker hotline. Jonathan Fahey is there patiently waiting. Jonathan, always great to have you on Super Talk in Nashville's Morning News. One of the things that I want to talk about, because there's several, so I want to get right to it, is deranged Jack Smith, right? So it looks like, and I just got done talking about this, so it looks like he was, of course, spying on conservatives, looking at the phone records, obtaining the phone records of conservative senators who were allies of Donald Trump, including Marsha Blackburn and Bill Haggerty, the two senators from the state of Tennessee. They do say that he went through the grand jury and he did everything, I'm going to air quote this, by the book. But Kash Patel, he's not done investigating. Neither is Dan Bongino. What's your immediate takeaway from all of this?
My immediate take on this is it's really just another example of sort of a heavy-handed overreach approach by Jack Smith. Yeah, certainly he issued grand jury subpoenas, which is fine, but there's no check on that. Like, all you have to do is you just issue the subpoena from Jack Smith's office, so it has nothing to do with any process, no judge signing off, no grand jury signing off. But it just shows a heavy-handed approach, but also a political approach. Again, it's like, they tried to always act like this wasn't about politics, it was about the law and the facts, but everything they actually did shows it was the exact opposite, and it was really to destroy as many people as possible, and that's what they were doing, and he just went really unchecked the entire time in that role, and it's just such a shameful episode in the Department of Justice history of what he did and the number of people that were harmed by all of his actions.
When we talk about a grand jury, I was musing on this earlier. Walk me through the process. Is that a grand jury from Washington, D.C., which is clearly tainted and to the left? Where do you get that kind of a grand jury? Do we even know?
Yeah, I think his grand jury, was operating out of Washington, D.C. And when you're issuing a subpoena, the grand jury doesn't even know what you're doing and why you're doing it. It would just be, we're issuing a subpoena for phone number 123456789 or something like that. So they don't necessarily even know or sign off on, hey, we're going to get Marsha Blackburn's phone records or anything else. So they are basically in the dark as well. So this was entirely Jack Smith's doing. It's not the same as when you're voting on an indictment. The grand jury does not vote on subpoenas and things like that. That's strictly coming from the prosecutor, and that's where the prosecutors have so much power in these grand jury situations where people, it's not just the ultimate indictment, but it's the process along the way. And remember, with this administration, with the prior administration, they used the process to destroy people. They were using the process to destroy Donald Trump, to destroy his allies. People, you look at Steve Bannon, Peter Navarro, they not only served jail, but the process, was bankrupting people and things like that. So the process, any way you look at it, was entirely abused. Merrick Garland had no control over what Jack Smith was doing, even though he tried to act like Jack Smith sort of suggested he was independent, but it was Merrick Garland's responsibility to make sure these investigations did not become political and were done appropriately, and he failed miserably in doing so.
So do you think that, because we looked and we couldn't find where Jack Smith got an auto pen pardon, So is this the kind of thing where with Kash, then we'll move on, but Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, where the more that they look at this, could they find some wrongdoing? There's people that are already calling for Jack Smith's arrest. I mean, I'm no attorney, so I don't know. I'm asking you, a highfalutin attorney. What do you think about all this? Like, could he be arrested? Is there enough yet? And if not, could there be?
I don't think, based on what we know, there's enough for him to be arrested. I think the question is, did he abuse his authority in that position? I think that answer is perfectly clear. Whether or not there are any criminal law violations, I think that, they may investigate and find that. But I think the main thing was just, what he did was arguably so much worse than actual violations of the law, because he had this position of power and abused it for political ends. At least that's my judgment, and I think it's objectively reasonable assessment when you look at the way they conducted themselves, and then juxtapose that the way Biden was treated when he had classified documents. I think Hunter was using them to roll joints in the House, and they didn't even do anything with that. And so it just shows that one side of the Department of Justice was purely political, and then and everyone else got treated differently and better if you're on the Democratic side.
It's kind of interesting. I mean, they always talk about how Donald Trump is going after his political allies, but the more we find out about what was going on with Biden-Harris, and let's not forget, Obama spied on reporters back during Obama-Biden. So it does seem to me like if we want to start going down the road of which side goes after their political enemies, seems to me clearly it is the Democrats going after conservatives, not only politically, but will also after traffic. We're going to talk about some of the horrific things that are going on within the Democrat Party as it's seemingly open season on Republicans. We'll talk about that straight ahead. I'm not sure. Are you in Virginia or are you in where are you? Are you in?
I'm in Virginia. Well, I'm in D.C. right now, but I live in Virginia.
All right. So let's talk about the governor's race in your state of the Commonwealth of Virginia. I know that you've probably been keeping up with the whole Jay Jones text message fiasco, where he is running for Attorney General. Abigail Spanberger is at the top of the ticket running for governor, both, of course, Democrats. Text messages have now come out where Jay Jones is basically musing that he would like to, kill his political opponents and save a couple of bullets for his family. It is horrifying. And it's seemingly the Democrats just don't seem to care.
They don't seem to care, and it's kind of interesting because on one hand, are they just trying to get through the political part of it, or is the issue the reason they seem to not care is because is that more of a mainstream view within their party than they want to admit? And I think the second may actually be the case because the condemnation of him has been very weak, particularly from all of our Virginia elected officials and Spanberger as well. I mean, it's basically like, we told him not to go murdering people. This was bad, and then let's move on. And it's really bad because there's also I think it was in the New York Post, that he apparently made similar type of statements about law enforcement back in 2020.
Yes.
So, this isn't something I think if anyone, says something dumb, you don't just immediately throw them overboard. But this is another level of it just shows such horrible character on his part, and the fact he seemingly didn't just say it the one time. He said something similar in 2020, and these text messages reference conversations they had about the same subject matter. So, there's no way to really give this guy a pass on that unless you're just giving him a pass on it because, it's not a one-off. It wasn't hey, I got drunk, said something dumb. It was, a very, thoughtful, in a weird way, conversation. What he's talking about, killing these people would be good for policy, is basically what it came down to.
This is Jonathan. This is the headline from the New York Post. Virginia AG candidate Jay Jones said, "If more cops got killed, they wouldn't shoot so many people." I mean, how do you, it feels like political malpractice. How do you not, as a Democrat Party, immediately tell that guy to step down, immediately tell Abigail Spanberger to stop supporting him? Because she's been all about this dude as long as she's been running, she's been talking about how great he is. And now it seems to me if you don't come out and condemn what he said and immediately drop your support, well, then you're as bad as he is. All right, real quick. I want to get to, because of course everyone knows that you were former acting director of ICE. Let's talk about what is going on in Portland, what is going on in Chicago. It is making its way through the courts. We got, judges stopping it, other judges starting it, the whole thing. But I think that ultimately, you've got people that are saying, oh, my goodness, Donald Trump is going to utilize the Insurrection Act. That's now what, Trump himself said that he would. I think he said something to the extent of, I would consider it if people are dying and so forth. And so the headline this morning is, yes, Donald Trump would consider the Insurrection Act. And I guess my question for you from a legal standpoint, what would it take for the president to legally utilize the Insurrection Act? Because people on the left are saying, well, there you have it. Insurrection Act, that's going to lead to martial law. That's going to lead to no elections.
I think the left is always, overreacting, but I think he can just make us, declare an emergency that that the situation in Portland or in wherever else we're talking about, Chicago, that it basically makes it impossible or impractical for the federal agents to do their job. In this case, it's the ICE agents enforcing immigration law, and that's a more than sufficient reason to do so. And it's funny when you look at Pritzker and these people, and we all know, especially your listeners, know that Pritzker is just doing this to elevate himself politically. So he wants the chaos. Like Pritzker and Newsom want nothing more than National Guard in their states because they want to be able to get the soapbox. J.B. Pritzker would be an absolute nobody, a failed governor of Illinois, and now he gets to do the Sunday shows, and he wants to be president. So all of these Democrats actually are inviting this. If they wanted to, they could control their own cities with their own police departments. But you saw what happened in Chicago, where they don't even back up the Border Patrol agents that were in danger. The police department didn't, and we know that must have come down from political actors. So, we know what's going on, and if they won't do it, they don't get to the meaning of these states don't have a right to decide which federal laws get enforced. And Donald Trump has not just a right, a responsibility to enforce the federal immigration law. So I think it's appropriate. I think if these states, it's funny, it's only happening in the places that, it's like California, Illinois, and, Portland's just the outlier, but it just happens to be the two places where the two guys that are trying to be the alpha of the Democratic Party happen to be residing and governing.
Oh, they love, you bring up such a valuable point, which is, you know what? Brandon Johnson, clearly a failed mayor. J.D. Pritzker, clearly a failed governor. And you've got Gavin Newsom. I believe that he's a failed governor. I don't know. I think you put Gavin Newsom next to Ron DeSantis. It is clear who is the better governor. So the more that we see them fighting Trump, the more it's just like, well, just keep on keeping on. Because the more you continue to talk, I would say to let's go Brandon Johnson, the more you are just exhibiting your own ignorance.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And it just shows, sort of back to the last topic, where this Democratic Party is now, because they are such a far left party that, Newsom and Pritzker know they have to go full on crazy to get the support of the party. And it just shows how out of touch the Democratic Party is, because if you look at any polling, most people think you should deport illegal aliens that commit additional crimes in this country. But the Democratic Party thinks they should be celebrated. It's astonishing.
All right, Jonathan Fahey, how can people follow you on Twitter? By the way, I don't have free copies of Taylor Swift's new album to give away for people that follow you on Twitter. They're just going to have to do it for all the great posts.
I thought you were going to let people, they were going to get to coach a Tennessee Titans game, but I think things may have turned around this week. So,
do you know what's so funny? Do you know what's so funny? I don't know if you saw that game. I was going back and forth with Matt Murphy, our afternoon guy, and I kid you not, Joan, you'll laugh at this.
Yeah.
I had an X post all typed out on how 0-5 and the Titans are charging how much for the new stadium? This whole thing. And then they won the game. And then they won the game and I wasn't able to post it.
Darn.
I still think they suck, but that's okay. I'm sorry, Jonathan, how can people follow you on Twitter?
John for Fairfax.
All right. Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you.
Pardon him, Jonathan.